Organised Labour has suspended the nationwide protest scheduled to hold today.
Now, this is because the Nigeria Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, and representatives of the federal government reached an agreement in the early hours of this morning. Labour had planned to cripple economic activities over the hike in the prices of fuel and electricity.
Government has now agreed to suspend for 2 weeks the increment in electricity tariff to allow for a joint committee headed by Minister of State for Labour, Festus Keyamo, to examine the justification for the new policy. Other members of the 8-man committee include the Minister of State for Power, Chairman of the NERC, Presidential Aide on Infrastructure, and leaders of the NLC and TUC.
And for the increase in the fuel pump price, both parties agree that the deregulation should be sustained in order to cut down waste and increase local production, while the federal government will roll out palliatives that will cushion the economic impact. The palliatives agreed upon are in the areas of transport, power, housing, agriculture, and humanitarian support.
Government is to facilitate the removal of tax on minimum wage. It would also immediately make available 133 LPG-driven mass transit buses for workers, while more will be rolled out to states before December 2021.
Now, 10% of the ongoing Ministry of Housing and Finance initiative is also to be allocated to workers through NLC and TUC. The NNPC is to expedite the rehabilitation of the nation's 4 refineries. The 2 refineries in Port Harcourt would be fixed up to 50% by December 2021, while timelines for the refineries in Kaduna and Warri would be released later.
Government is to also allocate 10% of its housing initiative to Nigerian workers under the auspices of the NLC and TUC. We talked about that earlier. Now, the agreement was signed by all parties, but Labour says if government fails to implement the agreement after 2 weeks, no notice will be given before it embarks on the strike.
Right.
With us in the studio is the chairman of the Trade Union Congress, Lagos State Branch, Comrade Gbenga Ekundaya. Comrade, nice to have you join us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be here with you.
There was a build-up momentum as to what is going to happen today. In fact, The point there is, I said yesterday we saw some level of panic buying of fuel and other things, but early hours of this morning, everything calmed down. Now, talk to us basically. A technical committee has been set up to look at some of these issues for 2 weeks. What do we expect this committee to do differently?
Okay. Well, first of all, we would like to thank Nigerians for their patience, for their resilience, while we also will want to say that Nigerians should not despair at this time and they shouldn't lose faith with Labour. Like you said, we've made all the plans, we've made banners, we've rolled out all our affiliates with the necessary gadgets that we normally use, the leaflets. We made thousands of these, and we're ready to go out this morning. However, meetings held yesterday, and the last one was 7 p.m., which held till early hours of today. And at the end of it, the committees were set up with a 2 weeks window to look at the issues and come back with what we see that can work. But again, immediately the new tariff of electricity has been suspended. So what we've also done in return is to suspend the strike action. That's what our leaders did. When we say we suspend, it does not mean that we have actually called off the strike. Those 2 things are different. If you call off the strike, that means the strike is over.
Okay.
If we suspend, we can actually pick it up from where we left off. Okay. And that's where you won't get any further notice. So we expect the committees to go into the issues, deal with them carefully, with no gray areas left, no areas left unturned, to the benefit of Nigerians. That's why we're doing this. We've all seen the effect of COVID-19, and then we're adding this for that pain at this time. And what we want to see is the palliatives they are bringing. How are you going to implement the conversion of petrol cars to use compressed natural gas? Which stations are they going to do that? The kits that they've promised between now and end of next year, how are those going to be deployed in phases? When we see all those clearly that yes, they mean well, and we see that we are not going to a return of 2016, where we agreed with them to deregulate.
You expect this to be clear within these 2 weeks that you're going to meet in this technical committee will find out, look at it, and see that government is genuine with all the plans?
Yeah, if we are sincere and honest, this is not rocket science. There is nothing new or special about what they're going to do. We all have the indices. If you talk about the electricity tariff, we're only picking the tariff at this point. But we know the issues bedeviling that sector. We know when we broke up PHCN from the monopoly that we had in NEPA to PHCN, we now formed something that looked like an oligopoly, which is actually not, because you still create monopolies for those discos in their local control areas. And when you have such monopolies, you know what you get. If there's no competition, services cannot be good. We know the issues in there. Those issues are not strange, they are not new. So it takes, we expect that it is so simple and straightforward to look at them and find solutions. Where are the meters? Why are Nigerians not being metered? What is happening to electrical installations? Why do Nigerians have to contribute to buy transformer, buy cables and all that to get installation, only to get billed? And the bill is estimated. Those things are simple and straightforward. NERC will also be there to look at those issues. Why are they unable to regulate the sector properly? Why are Nigerians paying for what they are not seeing? Those things are straightforward. They are pretty simple. Then if you talk about the deregulation of the downstream sector, which we're now talking about, the PMS, why over 30 years have we not been able to get the refineries to work optimally? Those facts are there, they are not hidden. What has happened to the many turnaround maintenances that we claim to have done? Other places run refineries which are even older than what we have, and they still produce. Why are our own not working? So those things, the records are there, they're simple, they're on the table. Put them on the table, be honest, be open, be straightforward. Don't come back with what you did in 2016. We all agreed on the high hopes on which this government rose to power.
All right.
We all agreed to deregulate in 2016. They said guided regulation. How do you guide deregulation? But now we are here. The truth is out. They never deregulated. So they should not come up with another lie. Let us see the truth, what we're doing, and make it.
You've been hammering on be honest, be transparent, and be straightforward. Is it that the interventions and the engagement with government over time has not been transparent enough? They have not been perhaps open enough? Because a majority of these things that you are talking about have been happening before today. So what changed? What is different?
Well, till now, not much has changed. I don't want to say nothing has changed, so let me say not much has changed. Now, government has not been transparent. Even now that we're talking about COVID-19, they got so much fund from IMF, from all over the place. Have you seen in clear terms how those funds were utilized? Do we have the record? You only hear of billions, school children being fed while at home, and all those kind of things. We need to be transparent with ourselves in this country. We are here, Nigerians will have to bear this pain. But have we talked about 7 ministers, 7 senators who are ex-governors? I don't know where you double dip from the same purse. We need to be transparent, we need to be honest with ourselves. And that's why we keep hammering on openness, transparency, honesty. They say he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. So as they come to table to talk within the next 2 weeks, they should come with those clean hands. These are the records, this is where we are.
So the point there is, if in 2016 and even before that, all of these, over the years, all the issues that were agreed upon and strike was not embarked on were not 100% handled, how sure are Nigerians that this time around, some of those issues that you have raised will be addressed? Because government has remained. It doesn't matter whatever political party. Government is still government.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my brother. In fact, I love the way you've put it. It doesn't matter which political party. And we've actually seen them cross carpet. We've seen them jump from one boat to the other. It's a matter of changing cloth. The skin is the same. They are all the same. Now, do we see all these issues being addressed now? I can't say that for sure. And that's why specifically there are two items that we have picked at this point in time. Electricity tariff and the price of petrol. The other issues are issues that all of us as Nigerians must continue to talk about until we get there. They say that the price for freedom is eternal vigilance. We cannot go to sleep. We must continue to hammer on this.
But these are the things that Nigerians are looking up to NLC or the organized labor for. Because the issue there is, as it is right now, for instance, you talked about the issue of estimated billing earlier on.
Yeah.
And you remember that the National Assembly has criminalized estimated billing. We were expecting NLC or organized labor to move and even picket those who are responsible, those who are still carrying out that kind of practice.
The question you ask is, when National Assembly criminalized it, who is supposed to enforce that? You have NERC, who regulates that sector. The question you ask is, what are they doing? The same NERC is there when they decide to increase the tariff. Did they come back to ask, where are the meters you agreed to provide? Have you shown the record of metering them, of metering people? Now, if you talk about why are we not protesting, we are coming to it. As a matter of fact, before this particular strike action, if you remember, I think about less than 2 months ago, we were actually condemning the spate of, findings of corruption without anybody being prosecuted. There are many issues that we're coming to.
Right.
Specifically for the electricity. After the next 2 weeks, if we don't see what is needed, you can be sure that we'll be back on the streets and we'll be specific on them.
So we'll be shifting our focus now to the plight and welfare of Nigerian workers as the country is set to celebrate its 60th anniversary since gaining independence from Britain.
Joining us now via Skype from the UK is the national chairman and leader of the Boot Party, Sonny Adenuga. Sonny, it's good to have you join us right now. We've been talking about the issue of welfare of Nigerians. And if you ask an average Nigerian on the street, how happy are you being a Nigerian? They have their stories to tell one way or the other. And as it is, I know you've been following developments back home as well. How well off is a Nigerian considering the fact that the country is going to be 60 in a few days?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And what I will say is this: I'm not happy, just like many other Nigerians. It's very, very sad that as a nation and as a people, after 60 years, this is where we are. But that said, I'm happy with the gentleman there, who happens to be the Labour leader, talked about transparency. And it's clearly, he made it right. When we talk about good governance in any nation, one of the characteristics is transparency, rule of law, and also participation of people in government. Now, when we look at the plight of the people currently as we speak, the first question we should ask ourselves is, this is not rocket science. The opportunities are always there for us, especially for government, to actually ensure that they engage people properly. Let's look at the opportunity provided by COVID-19. For about 6 months, or less than that for Nigerians, for in other parts of the world, people were locked down at home. In Nigeria, what stopped government to have engaged people thoroughly about the idea of increasing fuel price or increasing tariff of electricity? Government is still the biggest employer of labor in our country. And as we speak today, that same government does not think that it's right to rightfully engage with people, and especially the labor leaders, to ensure that people are made aware, businesses are made aware, they make plans. You can't just wake up overnight. This is what is wrong here. I mean, personally, we don't, myself and also in our party, we don't have the exact data the government is using, the parameter. They just tell us a lot. And this is still the problem of our society. It's all about personal opinion, opinions that are not validated, opinions that are not subjected to different scientific opportunities that is out there to be able to know what do people really want, what do people think. It's disgraceful that a government is going to make a policy and at the end of the day find the policy is not popular with the people. We can't continue doing this. It's very, very simple. And for us in the Good Party...
If we can't continue doing this, it is said that the people are also part of the government. What should the people at this point be doing such that it becomes what it should be, a democracy as it has been defined?
Yeah, for us it's clear, participation. You will see the show of shame in Edo election. It's clear. The election conducted in Edo provided a lot of opportunity for Nigerians to have rejected APC and PDP in all the madness that we saw in Edo State. Look at the politicians laundering. One politician jumping to another party and he suddenly become a saint. And yet people do not find it right to reject these people.
Is it about the party or the individual?
Well, the reality is this. I've heard that many times. And if we go that line, we're doomed forever in our country. If we think governance, policy is about an individual, the individual can win election of opinion, what you saw in Edo State. But it takes political team to create political ideology. Where you don't have political ideology, you're just wasting your time. Let's be honest with ourselves. In Nigeria, we deceive ourselves and say, oh, it is the opposition. We call ourselves, we're looking for opposition. In any climb world, the first and foremost opposition is the system. It's the system that opposes the government of the day any point in time, even before anybody steps in. Now, where you don't have participation, look at that election. Among the eligible voters, well, that is quote and unquote, but let's say what INEC called eligible voters, only 25% came out to exercise their franchise to vote in that election. And among that 25%, 99% voted for APC and PDP, who have 35% of the 60 years of Nigeria, they have contributed. And statisticians can tell you that it's significantly, statistically significant that 35% of poverty level in Nigeria have been caused by PDP and APC.
All right.
So it's
now,
clear both people and the government.
Okay, let's put you on hold a little bit. Sani Adenuga, thank you very much for your insight into this. Let's come back to Comrade Ekundayo in the studio. Now, at the end of all of this deliberation and the next 2 weeks and the technical committee looking at all of these, what do we expect, or how well off will the Nigerian worker be at the end of the day?
Now, if you look at the content of the agreement as it is now, there is also the understanding for government to take the tax element off the minimum wage. So that is a palliative that puts the Nigerian worker in a better position immediately. You will also expect that the electricity tariff will be better worked, and hopefully there will be no increase eventually, and we'll also expect that there will be framework to create improvement in services. For once, when we deliberated within the small unit that we have, one thing that stuck out is the creation of some sort of competition. If you remember the history of telecommunication, when MTN and Econet came, you know how much we bought a SIM card, and per minute billing per second was not possible. Globalcom came, per second became possible. Etisalat came, porting became possible. Now, if you're not comfortable with the services you're getting from any of them, you can move to any other one. So if you get to that point, you'll find out that those things that they are so slow on, or they are not responsive, they may start to respond, because I can simply move to another operator if I don't get the services I need. But when you create a monopoly for your cronies and allies, this is what you get. The system, it's not just about getting billed. It's about the system being effectively productive. We need to start to think about effective production in this country. How can we really compete with the international market? How can we have effective services from those service providers? That should be more important. And we hope that at the end of the deliberations within the 2 weeks, we'll be able to get somewhere where services can really improve. And for the downstream petroleum sector, we hope that at the end of that discussion, we'll have a workable framework that can help us move from running on petrol to running on CNG, which is cleaner, more environmentally friendly. And we hope that all those can be achieved, and that we can see some green light some light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
All right, let's quickly get Sonny Adenuga's reaction to this statement by our guest in the studio. He has made, he is hoping that at the end of the day that we'll arrive at some concrete agreement that would impact the life of Nigerians, at whatever level. I wonder what you look forward to after these 2 weeks.
Well, I think, again, I will agree with the gentleman. First and foremost, our people is priority. Anything the labor leaderships are doing with the government to ensuring that the average Nigerian on the road is happy, at least with the little the government can do. And like he rightly said there, if they can do, the government is possible. The proposal he has put forward there, it shouldn't be too difficult. It shouldn't be too difficult for government to make it possible for the average Nigerian who actually pays for electricity bill to be able to change from one provider to another. You know, there's no point having a monopoly of some individual saying that, oh, they are the one that provides electricity. And what he says there is clearly, in my house in Abuja, we face the same thing. People keep bringing estimated bill, and it's just crazy. And I keep asking people, how on earth do people actually go on with this? And it's just clearly that government should just please, if we have to beg them, let's say please, Nigerians are suffering and you need to really help on this.
All right, Sonny Adenuga, we must thank you for your time on the breakfast show.
Thank you very much. All right, now back here in the studio, Comrade Kundayo, the point there is the palliatives that government has promised are in various sectors. The power sector, transport, housing, agriculture, and humanitarian support from the communique that was issued out to Nigerians. Now, one of the in housing, we understand that there's a request that government should give about 10% of housing initiative to Nigerian workers through the organized labor of TUC and NLC. Talk to us basically from that window. We've heard a lot of workers complain that they don't get some of these. That NLC decides who gets what and at that time, and then those who are really vulnerable workers don't have access to some of these palliatives.
Okay, I think to the best of my knowledge on the housing sector, there is a way we've run housing provision in the past, which obviously has not worked. And that probably affects most of the things we do. We run things without data. The first experience we had, I took over as chairman of Trade Union Congress, Lagos State last year, and we started working on housing for our people. We got some developers who have developed some houses, but when we ran a simple survey monkey, which is open to everybody, amongst our members, there's a particular beautiful project. I got there, I saw it. I mean, you will just love it. Simple, low cost. But our members weren't interested in that location.
Why is that?
They just weren't interested in that location. Okay. It's a bit far from where most of them work. and they are not from that local area.
So it seemed like there was no proper consultation with them,
Exactly.
and engagement.
So
before?
one thing we're trying to do now as labor movement is to get a database of what people really need. You now match that with what people can actually afford, because there's a difference between what you want and what you can afford. So we'll now be able to work, okay, how can you afford what you want, even though you cannot afford it now? And we're also working on what is the cheapest loan, the cheapest mortgage. The other problem that we have is you go to primary mortgage banks, you are getting mortgage at 18%, 16%. How do you survive? So what they've talked about now, the 10% that they're talking about, is actually to be run through Federal Mortgage Bank, which is the lowest rate you can get in the land, 6% per annum.
So it makes it easy for them to afford over a period of time.
Yeah.
All right, we have to leave it here now, but this conversation will certainly continue. Thank you very much, Comrade Linda Ikundaya, for your time on the program.
Can I make a request of you?
All right.
For the sake of the labor movement and for the sake of Nigerians, I just would love to show some banners that we've actually made.
Yes.
Just a few of them.
We've been showing that banner since.
Oh, okay.
While we were talking. Yes.
While you were talking.
Oh, really?
Right.
I'm sorry.
You were busy, so you didn't.
I didn't
see
see
that.
that. Oh, okay.
So
thank you for
the
that.
banners were brought in earlier, and certainly they were being beamed to Nigeria.
Yeah, that was just to tell Nigeria that we're actually prepared, we were ready, and we will have been on the street this morning, if not for the agreement that was had early this morning.
No problem.
All right. Certain you followed our correspondent, where she said a lot of Nigerians are not seemingly optimistic with this decision by organized labor, saying that the impact of the pandemic is already there. What they want is not just a 2-week suspension of the electricity tariff. They want it suspended perhaps indefinitely until there is a justification, and then everyone is metered.
Well, I think the thing first is to appreciate Nigerians and also to crave their indulgence, their patience a little further. On the issue of tariff is only a small part of the challenge in the electricity sector. Let's not remain hung up on just tariff. That I'm not saying.
But that's where it pinches them.
Yeah. I am not saying that the new tariff should stay. No. We have said no to the new tariff, and it has to be reversed. That's our position. However, when our leaders met last night till early hours of this morning, what they came up with is, okay, Labour, we hear you. This tariff is not acceptable. We suspend the new tariff for now, revert to the old tariff, which we expect that to take effect today, immediately.
Are we monitoring the implementation of this this new agreement to ensure that it is reversed?
Of course. Because you and I buy the units, so we're going to ask our members to go ahead and purchase between today and tomorrow, so that we'll see if they have actually reversed. So we're going to be monitoring that. It's not for us to go to sleep. Now, what they're saying is the 2 weeks window will be to now work out the issues in there and then find a way to permanently reverse, whilst we're also looking at the other issues in that sector. The main issue that we are angry about, actually, as Nigerians, is the poor services we are getting from the discos. Electricity supply is not there. It is just not stable. And a lot of people are still on estimated billing. You pay for what you don't use. People have paid for meters. There are even accounts of people who paid the discos for meter, they didn't get the meter. They went to private metering company, which NERC and Nigerian government have said, okay, we have actually registered these ones to private meters. They went to pay those ones, got the meter, and you find the disco, report them to police that they are trying to tamper with their installation. So you have those issues. Those are the main issues that need to be resolved. You and I know that if I can be metered and the pricing is reasonable, I have the liberty to control what I use.
Absolutely.
But when you don't have that liberty to control what you use, and the disco will slam you with whatever bill they want. You don't increase tariff in such environment. And that's why we're saying no to this tariff increase. There are things that should have been done which are not done. You can't be selling Nigerians to few individuals after you have created the monopoly that you have created for those few individuals in that sector. There's no competition there. So you don't even have an alternative to move to.
All right. Let's put you on hold. Sharon Jackson is still out there, correspondent in Yaba 2, talking to us all the while. Now, Sharon, before we let you go, also give us the update of security presence around where you are, because originally this was meant to be the mother of all strikes, like it was put. And now that he's been suspended, you said a few persons came around, but what is the nature of security there?
Well, we still have the security operatives here on ground at Yaba, Lagos, but I can tell you that from reliable sources, there will still be a series of protests here in Lagos, Nigeria, as we have pockets of civil society groups that have been mobilized for this action. So this means that throughout the day, you will still find some Nigerians on the streets trying to protest against this several hike and trying to hold both organized labor and government to action to ensure that these prices are reversed. This is the voice of the people from the engagement I had with them.
All right, Sharon, we must thank you for bringing us up to speed with details from the headquarters of organized labor there in Yaba. All right, let's come back to the studio now, comrade. There is also the aspect for the fuel price hike, looking at the refining capacity, looking at the Port Harcourt, asking that by the end of 2021, that should perhaps have picked up, and then we see some level of refining. Now, the government has pushed in so much money. A lot of Nigerians have won in 2021, even though it's quite a long time. But the confidence to ensure that, to see that this will really happen at the end of 2021, and then the organized labor pushing through to see that this agreement sees the light of day is another thing that concerns a majority of Nigerians.
I think for the downstream petroleum sector, the refineries particularly, NNPC has demonstrated over the years, over the decades, that they lack the capacity to manage the refineries. We should not deceive ourselves about that. As a people, we owe ourselves that responsibility to be truthful to ourselves. If we look at what happens in Nigeria, all that we run, our system is bedeviled with this, how do you call it, federal character factor. It doesn't matter whether this man is the best. You and I seated there wouldn't, as Nigerians, wouldn't agree that 90% of the people that will run any government office should be from a particular place. And then a lot of nepotism and corruption, you know, all around government activities. It didn't start today. So if you put those together, you realize that NNPC, despite many turnaround maintenances that have been announced in the past and millions of dollars spent, other countries running similar refineries still continue to produce. How come we are unable to? So that tells you that NNPC have demonstrated clearly they lack the capacity. We saw what came from the audit, the forensic audit that was done recently, said, which was done for the first time in the past 43 years. And the report is just terrible. They lack the capacity to make it work. Now, we hope that in this discussion, we can actually honestly look at the issues around that and determine how best to make this work. Right. If NNPC, truly as we have seen, cannot run it, we need to find what really works so that we stop going back and forth on this issue.
All right. We have to leave it here now. There's so much to look up to. It's 2 weeks from now, we'll see how the story will remain the same or the story is going to change for the benefit of Nigerians. Thank you so much, Comrade Gbenga Ikundaya, for your time on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great.